Sometimes life is all good or comfortable, and then it happens, and you lose money, a lot of it. Enough to say I'm poor. And becoming poor or being raised in poverty is one thing, staying poor is another, and it all starts in here, your mind. The way you think, your perspective on life, it can either leave you stuck in your current struggle, or it can elevate you onto a better and new path. This week's discussion is about having a poverty mindset, and I'm going to tell you how to get out of it. I'm Isabel Lewo. Thanks for tuning in to Alive and Living 360 for yet another week of motivational content. Having a poor mindset doesn't always pertain to having a lack of money, but I'm going to go in and out here and talk about poverty when it has to do with socioeconomic status and poverty when it comes to your mindset. So you can see how it's all connected. Some of us are born into and raised in low-income conditions, and the rest of us who aren't careful enough, we encounter losses or setbacks that lead us to acquire that poverty mindset. The poverty mindset in some cases can be a product of your environment or a generational transfer where your parents had a certain outlook on life and they passed it on to your parents who have now passed it down to you. A downward trickle or a cyclical effect that is ongoing, right? But it can be broken. Now, just to get a little more personal here, I wasn't born into low income conditions. My parents did well for themselves and raised my siblings and I to be enterprising, sharp, and ambitious, etc. But boom, life happened at a very pivotal point in my life. I was getting ready to graduate with my master's, and all of a sudden, there wasn't enough money to go around. Shortly after graduation, it got worse. Not being dramatic and all, but I thought hunger was about to become my reality. I went days without food sometimes, 4 or 5, and I rationed on the others. I remember seeing an old friend of mine and he was like, "Whoa, you need a burger, make that too." But he had no idea what I was going through. It was a hard time for me, one that was personal until now. Anyway, I had to quickly kick into that survival mindset, which meant rewiring my thinking to change my perspective and my life. It wasn't easy. Words like strive, thrive, and live were what I was used to. Those were the only words in my vocabulary and all I ever knew how to be. Words like hustle, what did I know about that? I wasn't about that life. But hustle, save, survive, those are the words I had to adopt at that very difficult point in my life as a young adult in order to not give up or drown through it all. At the time I was dating someone and he had the nerve to tell me, "You're so talented and an amazing dancer. Why don't you go dance at the strip club to make money, What a pig. I never resulted to doing anything illegal or degrading, but that poverty mindset will lead you onto paths where you don't recognize who you are anymore. I was lucky. I am blessed to have a strong mind and be multi-talented. I did hair, styling, fitness, teaching, K through 12 and up to PhD level. I taught language, launched businesses, and co-run a production and talent agency. The story is more complicated, but to summarize, it wasn't breezy. Every single day I tell myself, "Don't give up, Isabel. Your purpose is greater. You're going to make it." That's what got me through, and willpower. Because what that lousy guy I cared about could have done was influence me. And what he suggested that I do, that was crazy, especially coming from someone who was supposed to have my back. Like I said, life happened and it wasn't my fault in that moment, but it was about to be mine if I didn't do anything about it. It's only through self-growth that I'm able to find that equilibrium now and live abundantly and live smarter, which is within my means without depriving or holding myself back anymore. It was definitely humbling and I wouldn't be here without God's protection. I can tell you that. But it takes work, practice, and effort to let go of negative thinking and engaging in self-sabotage. When you're in that poverty mindset, it's easy to get stuck. It's pretty much a programming or conditioning of the brain where you tend to set non-existent rules in your head that you've put there, which tend to start with "I can't," "I don't," "it's not possible because," etc. It's like We're always making excuses for why we can't get out of the whole mess. Well, it really takes a strong mind to break out of those self-inflicted chains. An easy example is working out, where we tell ourselves day in and day out, oh, I can't go to the gym. Well, why not? Because I can't afford it, or the commute's too far, expensive. So we give up altogether on working out because it's just too much effort. We're lazy or simply just poor. If you really wanted to work out, you would make yourself afford it. You would do the most obvious thing like get a job to pay for a membership, or you would simply build your own at-home gym or just work out outside. And in turn, that would be you affording it because you wanted it, believed you could, and did it. You didn't stay stuck or poor. Make sense? The poverty mindset also taps into that victim mindset where you succumb to your habits and just say, poor me, because it's easier than to strive for change. Why is that? I get it. Change can be taxing at first. It can even hurt. But in the long run, it's rewarding and freeing. This way of thinking is similar to the type of conditioning whereby at some point we start to value money more than the gift of life itself. It's in the way we think and function, which is on a low frequency derived from a sense of scarcity. Scarcity meaning we behave like things such as opportunities are hard to get, and there isn't enough of success or rewards to go around. Now, hear me out. So you can be poor but not have a poverty mindset, yet you can be wealthy but have a poverty mindset. Hence, people with a poverty mindset tend to have a low self-esteem, self-love. They downgrade themselves socially or have low expectations for themselves. Poverty is a status, but a poverty mindset is a negative energy and approach to life or assessment of your self-worth. In some cases, you can even feel guilty for making more money or even having it. And even if you are doing better, you still feel like you're in the same position that you were yesterday financially. You'll see this in people that have to give away some of what they have, not for charity purposes, but just so that they don't feel terrible for making more or having money, period. For instance, a person with a poverty mindset will put off self-care because they don't see the immediate benefits of spending money on things like going to the spa, getting a massage, or nails done, even if it's to nurture our personal needs, which in turn deprives us of things that we do need to feel like our cup is full as opposed to half empty. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if most people who didn't engage in self-care have a poverty mindset, meaning they neglect investing in their self-care because they feel it's a waste of their money, which is already scarce, by the way. The wild thing about self-care is most people tend to partake in it as a planned or one-time event. For instance, we had a stressful week or we just got rejected, so now we go to the spa and get pampered, right? Here's the thing. In the moment it feels good, but when you're back home and go back to your life, that feeling dissolves and you're right where you were previously, feeling empty or hurting. When it comes to self-care, we need to make it a habit, a repeated activity every weekend or bi-weekly so it becomes a lifestyle. You know, that's just what Bella does, that kind of thinking. Yeah, so that when life hits you hard, or if someone you were dating treats you crappy, or you lose something of value, you don't feel drained or as broken because you've already been taking care of you and doing whatever it is to fill your cup. Wouldn't you agree? Actually, comment below and share your thoughts on the point I just made about self-care and why it needs to be a lifestyle. I have a video on filling your cup, by the way, that I know you're going to love if you haven't seen it already, and I stand by it. Self-care should be a regular activity. When you treat yourself positively, you'll find it difficult to entertain negativity. So I have some tips to help you get rid of that poverty mindset and get richer at life. Number 1, acceptance. Admit that you've been conditioned to feel this way about money or how you approach life or relationships, whether it's from your environment, family, or friends, etc. Admit that you have a poverty mindset, period. Number 2, watch your company. Yes, this includes family and friends. Some people in your circle can be so negative and scared of diving into new ventures because they don't know how to be any other way. But one thing they're good at is persuading you not to take the leap. It's too dangerous. It's too much. You don't need it. It's a waste of your time or too great a risk. Do it later. Do you really want to start another business? The list is exhausting. Distance yourself from that, because if they have any influence on you, you'll find yourself stuck and never striving or achieving. Number 4, practice letting things go. Sometimes we hoard things simply because we purchased it with our hard-earned money, even when it doesn't function properly anymore. Like old clothes that don't fit, or electronics that no longer work properly, or are simply outdated like an old phone. I held on to my own iPhone 6 Plus when they released the 12 Pro Max because it was still working. The features were slow, okay? Photo resolution was crappy and made my content look weak sauce. But I held on to it because it still worked. When my niece got the iPhone 10, it was hilarious because although I could afford it, I didn't get it. Was it embarrassing that my niece had a better phone? Yeah. But that poverty mindset made it easy to act like it didn't bother me, that I could afford better or more, but I didn't want to. I gave in eventually and bought the 12 Pro Max, and let me tell you, it felt like I went back to the future. At first I found myself feeling guilty. Then I was like, Bella Lee, get a grip. You worked hard for it. I started looking at phones I could purchase for loved ones so I wouldn't stand out as much, which was crazy. But it was that poverty mindset keeping me at a low frequency. So I broke the chains and said, I'm not going back there. I'm going to live my life freely and unapologetically. Yeah. Number 5, own your setbacks. Move on from that and focus on your strengths. Toot your own horn. Have you ever given someone a compliment, then they play it down like, yeah, the shoes were so cheap. And I said, hey, why not? How about saying, yes, I look good. I like them. They look good. You know, and so I got it. Or not explain yourself, period. You know, I'm blessed to bear the fruit that I have, and you are too. So why not celebrate what you have while you're alive instead of feeling guilty? I mean, part of celebrating is showing your gratitude. It doesn't mean you're being boastful. It just means you're happy. You can do it through self-talk or talk to yourself. Try to live 360 by really appreciating the things you do have and embracing that celebration. I mean, you can do it through self-talk. Tell yourself, I'm going to live my best life in 360. Self-care is going to be a part of my routine. Thursdays it is. Treat myself Thursdays. It can be cheap or expensive or whatever, but the focus is not the expense. It's that I'm treating myself to what I desire in that present moment. Don't regret the past. Don't worry about the future. Just embrace the present because that's the true gift. Stop the self-sabotage and engage in self-affirmations instead. How we talk to ourselves holds more power than you can imagine. Number 6, be consistent at doing better until and beyond the point where you realize it's your lifestyle now. In a nutshell, life will throw you curveballs and you have to be quick and slick to adapt so you don't drown, but be careful. Don't get sucked into systems or new habits that you start thinking negatively or downgrading yourself. Snap out of it. We weren't created to not recognize our worth or blessings. We are meant to flourish and give thanks to the Almighty for every blessing we do have. Not live in misery while we're still breathing. Break the chains and embrace your blessings right now. Stop talking yourself out of positive ideas or changes. Eliminate the self-doubt. You attract what you are and what your deepest thoughts are. If you think you're worthless, you'll attract people who are operating on a low frequency, broken or low value individuals with a lack of integrity. You weren't born broken when you came into this world. Your environment most likely shaped you, but you hold the power to reverse that and re-emerge like a rising phoenix. Sometimes the walls we build to protect ourselves are the same walls that block our blessings. It's time to upgrade, starting up here.